happy to have both of you here today on the Classroom Matters podcast. Everyone, welcome to the show. This is Kristy Houle, the host of the Classroom Matters podcast, and I'm so excited today to be joined by two members of the Navigate St. Louis Schools organization. We are being joined today by Gloria Nolan, who is the board president of this wonderful organization, and we're going to get into all of that in just a moment, and Anna-Stacia Allen, who is also a member of this organization. So ladies, welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Okay, so I'm so excited about what you guys are doing in this organization. So let's get started with just some brief introductions. And Gloria, let's start with you. Give us a little bit of background on just who you are and sort of what your background is and what brought you to what you're doing today.
Okay, so I am a St. Louis native, born and raised, and I refer to myself as like a city kid. Grew up in North City, St. Louis, and had just kind of a little bit of, I guess, some struggle in my background, but was able to overcome many things like having a parent that was incarcerated. I lived in foster care, but through that time, I really had some impactful educators that poured into me and inspired me to go off to college and just really try to make the most of the situation that I was handed. And so I did wind up going off to school, and I moved away from St. Louis for about 16 years. I met my husband while I was away, and our family relocated back to St. Louis in 2014. And so I got to see St. Louis through my adult lens. I had two small children and about to enter the landscape of, enrolling them in school and all of the things, and just really became passionate about making sure that there was equity within the systems of education so that no matter where you live, no matter what your zip code was, your child could receive a high quality education. And so that has been pretty much the drum I've been beating for a while. I work for an organization called We Power, and we go after policy and systems change by using community. So I'm really, really proud of that work, and I'm excited to be back home and ready for all of the things and Navigate at St. Louis Schools. It just made it was time for families to have options. And so I wanted to be a part of that work. And so that's why I joined in this work also.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. And I'm so excited because later we're going to dive into a couple of things that you mentioned in your intro. So Anna-Stacia Allen, thank you for being here. Tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, so I am a graduate of The Ohio State University, born and raised in Toledo, Ohio. And my neighborhood and school experience was very similar to those of the young people growing up in St. Louis City. And luckily, I had a mom who was very adamant that I was going to get the best education and go to school. And so she found gifted and talented programs and had me tested and really wanted to kind of push me forward. As I got into adulthood, I really became passionate about education and doing work in nonprofit sectors to make sure that I was able to help other people have the same access that my parents fought for me. And so I am actually relocating back to the city of St. Louis. I lived here in about 2015 to 2017. And when I found out about this opportunity, it just really aligned with my personal mission of making sure that people had access to education, that people were being given the resources that they needed to succeed. And I'm just really excited to be here to push this work forward.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I am excited to have you. So we're going to just dive right in and give us a little bit of background, Anna-Stacia, about what Navigate St. Louis Schools is. Give us what that is in a nutshell.
Yeah, so a group of parents in about 2014 noticed Gloria's struggle, essentially, that it's really difficult to find out where to send your child to school and what the enrollment dates are and what the testing requirements are. And so they started a website to help people just really navigate through that experience. In about 2019, the Opportunity Trust approached those parents to kind of help push that mission forward. And so what we do is we gather non-biased data from the state, and then allow schools to go back in and then to verify and validate their own profiles, but putting everything into one place so that families can come, they can visit the website, they can learn about the education statistics, the class offerings, the sports offerings, the testing, the teacher to student ratio, everything's all in one place. So when you're going in to make a decision, you don't have to call 13 different schools to find out the information that you need to make the best choice for your students. And so our goal is to really make it easier for parents to navigate and traverse this landfill and really understand how to get your kid into the best educational option for your family.
Mm-hmm. And Gloria, being the board president, what are some of the things that you're currently involved with rolling into this new school year with Navigate St. Louis Schools?
So, being the board president, like I said, this is new for me, and kind of being an outspoken leader in this. Like it just kind of happened. And so when presented with the opportunity, I said yes, because definitely there needed to be parent voice within the group. And so the leaders of this organization really thought that was very important. So I pretty much answered the call. So I am learning many things as I go along, but I think that overall, at this point in time, the main goal is to make sure that we're getting this information out there, that people know that it exists. Like Anna-Stacia said, there was a website that was already up and going. So some families were familiar with this concept, but just kind of taking that and then refining everything and making sure that folks know, hey, this is back. This is a tool for you to be able to use. And there will be some folks to help you along the way. Now, of course, with COVID-19 as a crisis that's happening all around us, there are some unique challenges going forward with this, but I think it also presents a prime opportunity for folks to be able to use this tool because of the inability to visit spaces in person. So this is a great time actually too.
Yeah, and I was thinking that as you were talking about this, because this is really an ideal time. Because like you said, people can't visit the actual spaces. They're struggling to know where their kids might be going to school come August, like all of us are. And so I want to make sure, though, that our listeners understand that this is a St. Louis City, St. Louis proper community website. This is just for those schools. Am I correct in that?
Yes, currently it's St. Louis proper schools. So, and that includes the independent, public, charter, and some of the private schools also.
Mm-hmm. But I don't want to disappoint any of our listeners that are not currently in these schools, because we also want to dive into during this podcast just how important it is to have these types of community organizations, community partnerships when it comes to school choice, because it is such an important thing. So talk to me a little bit about what the response has been on Navigate St. Louis Schools from schools that you're serving and parents. Are you having a really good positive response on this website?
Yeah, currently I would say we have gotten pretty positive feedback. So we have given every school that's on the platform the opportunity to go through and validate their own data. A lot of them came up with no issues. We had 34% of schools make changes, which was really impressive for us, that they were reaching out. We've heard great things from educators and from the initial group of parents who've used it, just because it's specifically data at this point. We're not making any judgment calls. We're not making any decisions. We're just presenting the numbers in a way that is easily digestible for families, and allowing them and empowering them to be able to make the best choices for their families.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's something that I love about that. And Gloria, you can probably speak to this too, as both a parent of three children and a former administrator. When a new family came into my school, I mean, it was all, we had the best school. Well, because I did, but
Yes.
we had the best school for their child. And that's difficult for parents to really get all of the information without sort of the bias, like you said. So Gloria, talk to us a little bit about how important it is just to have the actual data there without that bias.
Having that data there, so everybody, like you said, they have their own personal feelings, their own personal connections to the space. And then, that culture piece, that's something that we cannot share with the data, but the data is, it's facts. And so to have that at your fingertips, then you can start adding those other elements to your decision making process, to make the best choice for your student. And I know that the term school choice can be controversial at times, but you are making a choice ultimately, and parents do have to decide, and being able to see those things all in one space. Every school that is listed on the site, they have, information that's in alignment with each other, and then you can start that comparison process for yourself, and then it's ultimately up to you on that other end. But having the facts be first, I think, is super, super important.
And another thing that I do want to kind of highlight is that, some families don't have the time or the resources to go to 5 or 7 different schools. And so being able to help them make a choice, a narrowed down choice between their top 2 or 3, it saves parents time, it saves them money, and it really does alleviate some of the headache that goes along with this process.
Mm-hmm. And I'm glad that you brought that up, Anna-Stacia, because that sort of leads into something that I want to sort of talk about with both of you. And, this not only has to do with the Navigate St. Louis Schools organization and what you're doing for parents to empower them to have the data at their fingertips, but also just some myth busting, and I didn't know this until I moved to St. Louis, because I'm not a native of St. Louis at all. But I've been here for about 10 years now, 10, 15 years. And I didn't realize that what high school you went to was such a big deal in St. Louis.
Hmm.
Oh,
But
yes.
it is like, that's like the question, right?
It
Even at like
is.
50 years old, someone will say, where did you go to high school? And in my mind, I'm like, why does it matter? But it's a big deal to folks in St. Louis. And depending on your zip code, that is sometimes how you are perceived. Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. St. Louis has its, whew, there's definitely a lot of high points for St. Louis, that I know and love, but then we have our areas of growth, even still. And a lot of times, that what high school did did you go to? That question ultimately leads to, like, who are you? What are you about? And so, like I said, I grew up in North City, and I graduated from Beaumont High School. So Beaumont High School at a certain time it carried a different weight or prestige, versus, you know, kind of a crossover, like in the 70s and whatnot. And so, oh, you went to Beaumont, that means that you lived in this neighborhood. That means that your family had this much money, or these were your resources, and this is the type of person that you are. And we really need to get away from that, because people are so diverse, even within different races. And Black people are not a monolith, white people are not a monolith, and we just really need to unpack that. And so, like I said earlier, the part about not having the zip code be your soul, you know this is, you're going to be able to achieve coming from this area or this school. We should have that across schools, and then the opportunities should be available to parents across those zip codes as well.
Hmm. And Anastasia, on your comment about how parents may not have the ability to get to multiple schools to actually physically go and check out the school. And I think that, unfortunately, there is a lot of preconceived notions that parents in specific zip codes or certain socioeconomic demographics aren't doing those things because they just don't care as much about their kids and their education. We obviously know that's not true, but talk to me a little bit, Anastasia, about how this organization can help that, and how we can sort of try to get away from that myth, because that does exist.
Yeah, so one of our main goals at Navigate St. Louis Schools is really to help disenfranchised families, so minority families, low income families, to really navigate the school system. Because what actually happens a lot of the time is people have a lot of hurt associated with school districts because they do tend to stay in areas that are very close to where they went to high school or elementary school and have had bad experience within the education system. And so that kind of deters them. Other times, people are working 2 or 3 jobs just to put food on the table. And so getting my child into a school is what is most important, because I might not have time to drive across the city in the morning to get them to the very best school, or I didn't know how to get them the gifted and talented test that they needed to be able to get into a magnet school. And so really what we want to do is help to break down some of those barriers by putting everything on an equal playing field. A stay-at-home mom might have a couple of additional hours to go through and do the research and make the phone calls and go where she needs to go to make sure that her child is getting the best education. And I applaud stay-at-home moms for being able to do that work. But that doesn't mean that the parents who work care any less about their children. And so if we can make it easier for everybody and put everybody on an equitable playing field, then that's most definitely our goal with this tool and within this organization, so that everybody has the opportunity and access to be the best that they can be and to have access to the best education possible.
I echo what Anna-Stacia pointed out. It's just, ability and time, and all of the things, and even knowledge. I think that for my own, just coming from my own situation, when I relocated back to St. Louis, I didn't realize what the landscape was. And so I had, my daughter was 3, and I just happened to have a coworker at the time ask me, "Hey, where's Dylan going to school?" And I thought, "Oh, I don't know, but probably, somewhere close." And she goes, "Oh no, you had better go and do the gifted testing process." And I knew nothing about it. And there were deadlines and applications and tests to take and all of the things. And I had no clue. And so even having some of those deadlines for some of the choice schools available in St. Louis Public, that is information that parents need to have at their fingertips. And so representing some of that to families that were out of the loop, and who didn't have the knowledge base, is important to make sure that all students have access to those resources.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that, that is such a great point. And to your point, I actually have a small little personal tidbit for that is, I've been homeschooling my children for going on 5 years. So I have really been out of the public school loop when it comes to my children being in a school system. And this year, coming up in August, my middle son will be going back to public school. And I'm struggling. I'm sort of lost, like you said, like a lot of those other parents are, to figure out, what do I need to have for my child? Where do I need to go? What forms do I need to fill out? What's the information about the school that he'll be going to? And so I'm kind of struggling to find that information and asking people. And so I think that just we need to understand that about all of us, regardless of what zip code we're in, what we've been through. We're all sort of struggling when it comes to our child's education. And we just need organizations like yours to help all of us sort of come together and empower each other to help each other out when it comes to those kinds of things, and not look at one zip code or one, dynamic of family in any other way or any other light than every other family in the world that we're struggling. So we're all going through it. And I wanted to ask both of you, because this has been brought up a few times by both of you. Do you think that your background that you both have from childhood to now has sort of pushed you into the work that you're doing?
For me, I would say so. Absolutely. If you don't know what you don't know, and I think my main goal is to make sure that you're in the know, because you also deserve that. There are folks that knowledge is power. So having that, I think, is very important, and making people aware of that information is going to be key for, families probably making some different decisions that can ultimately change the life and trajectory of their student.
Yeah, I would have to echo that. I would say that my entire life has been kind of shaped and leading up into doing this type of work. And it's just because so many people have presented me with opportunities and access that if I didn't run into these people that I would have never had. And so I really want to be able to create that same access for people coming after me. And that level of reciprocity is how I got into this type of work and why I'm so passionate about it. Because everybody just really deserves a chance. And for a lot of people, that chance starts with the way that you're being educated. And so if I can do anything to push this journey forward for another person, then I'm most definitely going to make sure that I'm doing everything in my power to create an equal playing field for as many people as possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And this is such a community oriented organization and effort. So talk to me a little bit about how the communities have rallied around this Navigate STL Schools as it's been sort of forming into what it's become.
Yeah, I guess I would start off by saying this organization has its roots very deeply in an organization started for parents by parents. And so, before we ever launched the website, before we ever decided to, pull together a larger scale nonprofit, we went through and we surveyed parents and we asked community members and we went out and we talked to educators about what they wanted to see in a tool like this. And parent voice is number one in our mission, and making sure that parents have the opportunity to have their voices heard and that we're creating product and experiences that parents want and need. And so that's number one. Two is that we are comprised of a community board of directors. And so we have members of the education community, we have parents, we have general volunteers, business leaders that are all on our board of directors so that we're making sure that community voice is heard. We're also working to make sure that we have youth board members that are going to be joining our team so that we're making sure that we're elevating a new class of leaders, but also hearing what kids have to say because they do deserve a voice in their own education. And keeping this organization community minded and community grounded is at the forefront of what it is that we want to do in this work.
I think what Anna-Stacia pointed out is absolutely true. And then, of course, we had some big plans for like kickoff things. And so I'm a little heartbroken over that. But there will be time for all of that and just to kind of roll it out in a grand fashion and say, we're here. But even with the soft launch and then the official launch, I feel that people have been able to see what's being offered, and there's been a lot of appreciation around the efforts of Navigate.
Yeah. And if you actually go to the website, so the website for all of our listeners is Navigate STL Schools.org. And yes, you will find majority of information on there are for the St. Louis schools. However, there are actually a lot of resources on there just for parents anywhere. I love the priorities worksheet. I'm going to throw that one out there, ladies, because I think that would fit with any parent trying to figure out what they wanted for their student, regardless of where they live. There's a lot of great articles under the news and updates that folks can look at. And then, of course, there are the school searches, resources, and just tons of great information on the website that folks can look at the website and just figure out where they need to go next with it. But it's just such a great resource. So if there are people listening, Gloria and Anna-Stacia, and they're thinking to themselves, this is fantastic. I wish we had this where I live. What are some first steps that folks could take to start getting something like this organized?
I think give us a call.
Right?
I'm sure that I'm sure that people on our team would be willing to share information and best practices. And then there are other sites like this around the country that we even were able to look to for some guidance. I know that Kansas City has, what is it? Show Me Missouri Schools, or how is it? Show Me.
Schools, the Boston School Finder, Enroll Indy. So there are other organizations that are doing this in other communities. And for the St. Louis region, we are working really hard to be able to encompass all the schools in the region, so that we can provide parents, whether they're in the city or in the county, with access to information. And that's really what we want to do. We really want to provide access to information. After that, the decision is up to you, but everybody deserves equitable access to the information that is out there about their child's education.
Yeah. So, ladies, thank you so much. And if you could real quick, just give our listeners some good contact information for you if they do want to reach out to you. Is the website the best way to get in touch with you?
Yes, the website or info@navigatestlschools.org. We're also on all social media platforms, Navigate STL Schools.
Okay. Yeah, and that's on the website as well. So you can fill out the contact us form. You can get in touch in person. There are addresses there, by email, and all of their social media links. So it has been such an absolute pleasure, Gloria and Anna-Stacia, to have you both on here, talk a little bit about Navigate St. Louis Schools and the great work that you're doing, and just how important school choice is in general. So thank you both so much for taking your time with me today.
Thank you for having us. We really appreciate it.
Truly, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. And this is Kristy Houle signing off for this episode of Classroom Matters. And don't forget to check out all of our great resources and this podcast on the Educate.Today website.